So if you're first time here, you're catching us, or in the middle of a series called God's Top 10, where we're going through his 10 commandments, all right? So we've been putting these Roman numerals up front with little visuals as well to try to trigger a memory on how to remember the 10 commandments. So down the road, you can remember as well. I was sharing first service. Whenever I try to remember the 10 commandments, I go back to when I was about 10 years old, when we did a Christmas musical, and one of the songs was called The Perfect 10, which had us going through singing every single 10 commandments. So if I'm even preaching a sermon and I have to think of a 10 commandment, I'll run through the song real quick in my head and get to the right words so I remember it. So hopefully with these illustrations up here, 5-10 years from now, you'll think of the 10 commandments. Which one is it? And it'll make sense to you. Okay, so let's review. It's in your notes, and we'll get to number 4 eventually, okay? Number 1, love God first, all right? We got the heart there, love. Okay, and in case you missed Valentine's Day this week, it should be say sorry to your spouse first, and we'll love God then too. Okay, number 2, don't make any idols. Don't create idols. We got a little stick figure guy, because when we make idols, those are human interpretations of a God. When you make an idol, you create something in human form to represent a God. When we make idols, or even look at God, typically we shape God in the way we think he should be. And in doing so, we really limit the God who is, because he's far greater than these human forms that we are, okay? So don't create idols. Number 3, we have, do not take the name of your Lord in vain. And we got a t-shirt up there, all right? And the idea of the t-shirt is when you take the name of the Lord, when you become a believer, you take on the name of the Lord. You, like a t-shirt, you wear his name. So you are the visual representations in this world of God. So when you take it in vain, you're diminishing God's power, God's might. You're kind of staining God's name. So it's a reminder to not just don't say, oh my God, or use it flippantly. It's take it seriously, the fact that you are the representation of the Creator God in this world, okay? That's number 3. We're going to get to number 4, but before we kind of break open what number 4 is, I want to try to make my case for you as to why number 4 is very important. It's important because I'm tired. I'm looking because first service, as soon as I said that, there was this girl right over there and she just yawned. I'm like, perfect! I'm not the only one who's tired. And if you fall asleep in the next little bit, I will make sure everyone knows that they're sleeping. I'm not the only one who's tired too. No, I'm kidding. Stay awake, please, though. All right, I'm weary. I don't get enough sleep. I stay awake. I stay awake too long. I get up too early, I would say. In part because we have been nurtured by a culture where the MVP, the most valuable person, the most valuable parent, is the MBP, the most busiest person. If you're an English teacher, too bad, okay? All right. We celebrate the busiest. Used to be I could go meet someone and say, how are you doing today? And they'd say, I'm doing fine. How was your day? Now the conversation's changed. Check it sometime. How was your day today? How are you doing today? Busy. Let me tell you how busy. They don't say that probably, but then they go into this whole monologue of everything they're doing today, everything they've done today, from where they took their kids and when they got up and what they had to do and what they did with the dog and what they're making for dinner and where they have to go after this and what mom or dad did. And they never ask you how your day is, because they're really saying, beat that. That's really what those conversations have turned into. I catch myself saying, how are you doing? Busy. No, I don't want it to be, I'm doing fine. I'm doing good. How are you? But we turn that kind of culture where we celebrate busy, and somehow the best parent is the busiest parent. Somehow the greatest person is the busiest person because they're somehow doing more and therefore seemingly accomplishing more. But we aren't just being busy for the sake of being busy. I know that there are some things in our life that are really important to our survival, okay? You do have to work to make money to buy food. I get that. And relationships, sustaining, maintaining, restoring relationships, those are all very important. But I also know I don't just fill my schedule with stuff that doesn't need to be there. It's when I'm unintentional that stuff I don't need to be there fills my schedule. You been there? No. Okay, I'm the only one. My word. If I'm not intentional about what I'm doing, stuff jams itself in there and creates busyness. So what is it? What's out there? What's our motivation that causes us to be so busy? and therefore so tired. I think we're busy, church. We're busy because we fear, because we worry. And I put both of those words in your notes because some of you maybe don't feel like you're afraid of anything, and some of you don't feel like you ever worry. But you probably do one or the other. It's just we're using semantics here. It's our fear of something, our worry about something that causes us to be busy with things that really just aren't important or are really so much into our schedule it's causing us to be so tired and unproductive ultimately in the end. So I want to do with you, I want to take you through this next little chunk of our time together just to throw out some ideas. And I'm going to take my time working through it because I want God to speak to you right where you're at. To have you start asking these questions of certain things that you have in your life that are driven by fear or by worry. You don't have to answer me, but I want you, by the time you're done, to be able to answer to God and work through this together with Him. So, for example, why do we work overtime? Why do we gravitate toward picking up more hours? Well, we do that because we worry about paying our bills. Some people worry that my water might get shut off. You worry that you can't get your kids that Christmas present they asked Santa for, but you're afraid you can't provide for them like you'd want. You fear that the standard of living that you set, you somehow won't be able to sustain. And really, this might be okay, or this might be okay. Sometimes the extra work we put in is driven by worry or fear. Why do we let our children do multiple extracurriculars? Why do we let them in dance and gymnastics and basketball and 2 basketball leagues and extra college studies at school when they're just a freshman or sophomore in high school? Why do we do that? Well, we worry our kid won't like us if we don't let them do what they want. We worry, I've felt this, I worry that I love sports. I'm worried that my kid won't have the same fulfilling sports experience I had in high school. We're afraid that in a few years, if they don't keep up with the other peers, they might get cut from their team. We're afraid they'll never get a solo. We're afraid that we may not be able to provide for them at college, so they need to get that athletic or that music or that academic scholarship, so we push them in more tutoring and more activities. And school's a good thing, sport's a good thing, but all the additional stuff, is it fear that if my child fails, I'll look like a bad parent to other parents. For those of you who are caring for aging parents, why is it that you run to them every time they call? Do you always fear it's the last time you'll see them? Do you fear that they won't approve of how you're taking care of them when they gave their first 40 years of their life to you? Grandparents who are helping a lot with grandkids. And as a parent who has grandparents around here helping take care of our kids, I love this. But those of you grandparents who can't say no to helping with your grandkids, are you afraid you won't get to see them enough? Do you fear they'll like the other grandparents more than you? Are you afraid that your child might resent you if you don't help them? Or because your child is so busy with work providing for your kids, do you fear that their grandchild won't experience enough love in the home, so you got to take care of it when your child can't? Why do you bend over backwards for your addicted child, or your addicted sibling, or your addicted spouse? Are you afraid if you don't step in, they'll die? Are you afraid to take a hard line because you don't want them to abandon you? Or you simply fear so much for the grandkids, you'll do whatever you can to stay in your child's life, even if it means hurting them? Why do you stay up late on social media when really that extra hour of sleep would be great? And you know as well as I do, the more TV you watch, the more screen time you have, the more your brain spins, and it's harder to go to sleep. Is it because you as a senior adult feel isolated? Like people are pulling away from you and you fear, so you need to know what everybody else is doing? Do you fear you're not living a meaningful life, so you are comparing your life with others to make sure you have it better than others? So I ask you, how this worry-driven busyness, this fear-driven busyness, how's it working out for you? Is it solving the problems that are driving you, or is it masking it because as long as I stay busy, I can justify that I'm trying my best to fix all this stuff? But you're still tired. June 20, 1980, Montreal, Canada. Sugar Ray Leonard. Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran have their first of 3 epic boxing matches. 15 rounds the fight went. I didn't watch it. I was 2.5. A bunch of old people. You remember that, don't you? 15 rounds the fight went. And in the end, it was Roberto Duran that ultimately won their first fight. And it was because, and Sugar Ray Leonard stated afterwards, because I was fighting his fight. Roberto Duran had the nickname Iron Hands. He would get you backed into a corner and just keep punching you in the stomach and in the chin, and would slowly wear you down with his really hard punches. And Sugar Ray Leonard found himself getting backed into the corner all the time and taking the punches, but trying to fight that way when that was not Sugar Ray's strength. So Roberto Duran, that point, it was the first time anyone ever beat Sugar Ray Leonard. Roberto Duran is a welterweight champion of the world. He goes back to his homeland of Panama. They don't have much to be excited about there. They're not in the news much there except for a canal someone put through their land. So to have a global icon in their town, in their capital city, was a huge deal. Huge celebrations, great parties. Sugar Ray Leonard was determined. He wanted to have a second chance. So several weeks later, their 2 promoters got together and planned a second fight that would be held on November 25 in 1980 as well. They had 5 weeks to prepare for this fight. Now, on Duran's side, he had one major challenge to get ready. In that few months after the first fight, he had gained 50 pounds. That's called letting it go. And if you know anything about boxing, you fight people based upon your weight class. So he had 5 weeks to lose 50 pounds. That was his battle. Sugar Ray Leonard, on the other hand, decided that I'm not going to fight Roberto Duran's way. I'm going to fight my fight when I get in this next bout. See, Sugar Ray Leonard's strength was not his physical strength, but his speed and his quickness. So Roberto Duran dropped the weight, which made him a little weak because his endurance wasn't great because he had to lose all that weight. But they got into the fight November 25, 1980. For 6 rounds, Sugar Ray Leonard danced all around the ring, dodging punches left and right. And every time Roberto Duran was throwing punches, he was wearing out. None of his punches were landing, or very few at least. And Sugar Ray Leonard, in his quickness, would get a few punches in and wear him down. And the 7th round, something really crazy happened. Maybe go home and YouTube it. It was really crazy. Sugar Ray Leonard starts taunting him, realizing he's wearing him down. They'd be 4 feet apart, and Sugar Ray Leonard would stick his face in this, get really close to him, and just before he'd punch, in his quickness, he'd pull his head back, and he'd whiff every time. He was taunting him, and all the time, Sugar Ray Leonard's throwing very few punches, and Roberto Duran is fighting Sugar Ray's fight, and is losing strength and getting tired. And during the 8th round, something happens that has never happened before in a boxing match, and probably will never happen again. Halfway through the 8th round, Roberto Duran, in a 15-round fight, is exhausted and realizes now, fighting Sugar Ray's fight, he cannot win. So he turns to the referee in the ring and in his native tongue says, "No mas." No more. Never before, and probably never again, will a fighter quit in the middle of a fight. Usually it's the referee that calls it because he's hurt so bad and can't go on. He quit out of complete exhaustion because he'd been fighting someone else's fight. You've been nurtured. I've been nurtured by a world that says the MVP is the MVP. That's not the fight you were created to fight. That's why we're so tired. We were not made to go 100 miles an hour 7 days a week. Your body physically and your mind mentally was never created to handle that. So we have the 4th command today. It comes to us out of Exodus 28 through 11. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But on the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, your son, your daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Commandment 4. No mas peleas. No more fighting. Keep the Sabbath. I gave you 3 different terms. You can put in your blanks. Pick the one that makes the most sense to you. They all apply. No more fighting. No mas peleas. Keep the Sabbath. And glancing through that command, I didn't flinch. I've heard that command before. I don't keep it very well, but I've heard that command before. And then I read it again, and I wonder why we as a church, as we as humans, don't get a little more nervous when we read this passage. Listen to this, just listen again, and note a real problem. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, but he rested on the 7th day. It sounds like the mom of an infant telling her child, listen, for 6 days I'll take care of you, but I'm taking Sunday off. You got to change your diaper and find a way to feed yourself on the 7th. See you on the Monday. Sounds like a prison guard. Takes Sunday off and assumes the inmates will do just fine taking care of the prison themselves. Sounds like referees of a basketball game walking off the court in the 4th quarter, assuming that the players are going to call it fair and end the game well. You have the God who made the universe, controls all that there is, and then says, I'm taking the day off. And what happens to his world? Nothing. For our God is so powerful that even on his day off, he's still in perfect control. And he's so loving that he models for us the way we were made. Remember, we don't create idols. We don't make graven images because we are created in the image of God. We reflect God. So as we see God in part, that's as we are. And if God, in who he is, took a day to rest, we were made to need rest. It's an act of love to reach out and show this to us. So here's what God showed me, and it's got me shook a little bit. If God, who is in control of the universe, can rest for the day and his world doesn't fall apart, can you and I rest for one day a week and trust that he won't let the same happen to us? I say that again. Can we trust that the God who takes a day off, and in that day, no sun imploded in a black hole, no comet came out of the sky and hit the earth and destroyed it, no dinosaur ate Adam and Eve, in rest, he was still in control of the whole universe. Do you think we can take our little world and rest one day a week and trust the God who took care of this might possibly take care of this when we are doing no work? I'm not pausing to think what I'm going to say next. I'm pausing to say, do you hear this? This blows my mind as a guy who worries and so does. As a guy, you've seen me around here, I don't slow down. Can I trust that if I rest for a day, he will not let this world fall apart? There's a part of me that just wanted, when this came to me, it's like, let's just end the sermon now, but you have blanks on your paper, so I got to give you the blanks or my wife would hurt me. She likes to fill in all her blanks. I want to show you some examples. We can talk about the whole, it's take a day off my job and trust that God will take care of my finances. That's when we usually discuss here, but there's more to it too. Because yes, there's a physical exhaustion from working, but there is an emotional and a mental exhaustion from the worry that drives us to a lot of physical exertion that leaves us just tired. No mas or no more fighting for others' approval. Parents with kids, we want our kids to like us. People of aging parents want their parents to approve the job that they're doing to take care of them. We would like as students, we'd like our teachers to say, you're doing a good job. We work for their approval. We work for the coach's approval so that we can play more. We work toward our boss's approval so we can get an increase in our job pay. We work for our spouse's approval so maybe they will love us more. We work towards these approvals. This is the pit I fall into. And I'm going to say this again because I want to give you a window into my world. I'm not looking for affirmation here. If you don't want to give it, don't tell me that either, okay? But I'll give you a window. I worry. And I fill my schedule with extra work because I don't want people to think I'm lazy. I hate leaving the church office for extended periods of time. Because I'm afraid my coworkers will think I'm lazy. And we became foster parents this last 3 months. It has been hard transitioning our foster son to a new school, dealing with transitioning him into school, half days off every day, a lot of different appointments. I'm out of the office a lot. I want them to know I come in 5 or 6 o'clock every Sunday morning. I stay up at home on Friday nights to retouch sermons till 12 or 1 o'clock at night. I want people to know this because I am so worried that people feel like here at the church you're not getting your money's worth. If you don't feel like it, talk to the board. Don't talk to me. That would hurt. But I'm telling you this because my busyness is not always driven by obedience. It's driven by worry of how you perceive me and your perception of me. And it is exhausting. In Romans 5:8, God says, "But God shows his love for us in this, while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. While we were still addicted, Christ died for us. While we were still in our extramarital affair, God died for us. While we were still haven't kicked that habit, God died for us. While we still didn't change our language, while we still were watching those pornography, while we still were cutting, God died for us. While we were still nothing, before we even came into existence, God died for us. Our approval by him, our love by him is already set in stone. We're so busy with the approval of everyone around us that maybe if we slow down, stop for a day, and feel the warmth of God's smile on us saying, hang in there. There's nothing you can do to make me love you more. There's nothing you can do to make me love you less. That might be enough to get me to slow down instead of working for my kids or my spouses or my coworkers or my boss's approval, to know that my Father looks down on me and says, hang in there, well done. Hang in there, I got you. Worry of others' approval can drive us to exhaustion. Worry. So I would say, no mas, no more controlling our kids or our parents' future. The Bible says in Proverbs, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it. Well, what way should they go? When I was a kid, this is weird, but I wanted to be an insurance agent. I mean, who wouldn't? That's what my dad did. And he loved it. So he's training me to be an insurance agent. How many dreams that our kids have in their heads are their dreams that are planted by us as parents? You'd be a great history teacher. You'd be a great teacher. You'd be a great dance instructor. You'd be a great carpenter. And because they seek our approval, naturally they'll gravitate towards stuff that we like. Or I'm not saying that's always the case, but what way does God want them to go? This isn't a career conversation. God didn't give us kids to help them build resumes. He gave us kids to help them build a relationship with him. Train up a child in the way they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it. I'd rather my child depart from a career than depart from their Creator. I'd rather my child depart from playing that sport than depart from their Savior. Maybe that'll start slowing us parents down. Yes, us parents. Me, parents. And challenge us to skip a practice, skip a game. And get them to youth tonight, or 4th and 5th grade small group, which had 15 4th and 5th graders last week. They are longing for a Savior. Probably more than that sport than you realize. They are longing for a Savior, probably more than that solo you and their child talk about getting someday. It may involve getting them out of practice early on a Wednesday so they can be a part of small group night. And maybe it's getting the courage to say no to a director or a coach or a teacher. They're going to miss the game. They're going to miss the event. We want them to be with God's people. That's the way I want my kids to go. And I put parents up there too, because some of you are in charge of caring for your parents. Can you entrust them to God? Can you worry more about nurturing their spiritual well-being and not just their relational well-being or their physical well-being? Because in the end, that's the direction they should go. And no mas fighting for your relationships. Listen to this from Luke 6:27-36. Listen. But to those of you who are listening, I say this. Jesus is talking. Love your enemies. Do good to those who mistreat you. If someone slaps you on the one cheek, turn to him the other also. If someone takes your coat, don't withhold your shirt from them. Give to everyone who asks you. And if anyone takes what belongs to you, don't demand it back. Do to others as you would have them do to you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. And if you lend to those who you know who you expect repayment from, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting repayment in full. But love your enemies. Do good to them and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, because He is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father in heaven is merciful. It talks a lot about enemies, but I want you to see this kind of love he's talking about. This is a love that isn't investing in people hoping to get something back. It's a love that's loving for the sake of loving. It's not busying your schedule to make sure your husband or wife feels like they're loved, so they'll love you back and stay with you and stop cheating on you. It's not a love that is driven to get your kids to every single activity so one day they'll thank me, or one day they will know how much I sacrificed for them. It's not a love that is driven expecting anything to return. It is totally a selfless love that loves because we've first been loved by God. When we can try to trust this fourth command, on the one hand, we actually found some rest. I can't wait for my nap this afternoon. I'm not going to lie. My door will be locked, my fan will be on, my kids will be hurt if they come in. No, okay. The door will be locked, the fan will be on, and okay. We will also have some mental and emotional energy that we've been drained from because we're so worried about the outcomes of what we're chasing down. But here's the beauty of resting. Here's the best part about the Sabbath that I hope you can sit here and breathe when you hear, because it sets you free. In that day, you take off and do nothing. You are intentionally providing space for your God to show you that when you do nothing, He is still doing. In a day you're not worried about saving a relationship, He's still pursuing. And He's staying when you're not investing fully in your kids' academic and social and athletic prowess. God is still building their hearts in the things that matter. God's always working, but sometimes it takes you and I stopping in order to see Him work. And in that process, the way we should go, which is all about building trust in a Creator and a relationship, when we stop worrying and filling our schedule with the things out of worry that we do, we see a God who has never quit, who is still building, pursuing, healing, and restoring, and doing a far greater job than you and I ever could. And in knowing that our God is working, maybe that day off isn't as hard as it used to be. Because on that day you see God and you find rest. You find that a wonderful Savior is Jesus, my Lord. A wonderful Savior to me. He hideth my soul in the cleft of the rock, where rivers of pleasure I see. He hideth my soul in the cleft of the rock that shadows the dry, thirsty land. He hideth my life in the depth of his love and covers me there with his hand, and covers me there with his hand. And I am protected. And I find rest.